5 freaky eels. Alright.
This episode sponsored by Imprint. If there's one thing about eels, it's that they keep going past the point that most other fish stop. Now, the garden eels...
Am I taxing your patience today? Good. I thought I made it clear I wasn't going to stop until I got some straightforward answers from you. And these videos are not straightforward answers. So, and again, we're talking about child abuse here. Why would I stop trying to get answers from you? Unless I was a total coward. I might be scared of some things, but I am not a total coward. Or I try not to be, at least. So, no. No, I'm not going to stop.
...a bit more modest about showing off their lengthenedness. These eels spend their lives in sandy holes, and you might even think that behind that little head there isn't all that much eel to be had. Well, here's one out the hole, which is very uncommon. Probably drunk, doing the garden eel version of streaking. But anyways, you can see that there's quite a bit of eel in those holes. Now, garden eels make these holes by backing up into the sand with their tails, and the holes take on the shape of their movement. And look at that, they can just glide in and out of it willy-nilly. You almost forget for a second that they're full-bodied dry humping a sandy hole. Now for you and me, there'd be some chafing butt.
You're really milking that butt joke. I think you do it a whole other time in this video. I think you do it almost every single video at this point. Isn't it a professional clown? Isn't it sort of your job to come up with new, fresh jokes? Instead of just recycling the same old joke over and over and over again? But I guess you don't have to try very hard anymore being a millionaire. Right? So, let's press on.
Garden eels secrete a special kind of mucus from these sorts of cells. I could show you anything right here, couldn't I? I mean, these are the actual cells, but let's be honest. It doesn't really matter, does it? Anyway, this mucus binds the sand grains together, which gives that hole some integrity and makes sure they don't get any grit in their nethers. Speaking of nethers, I googled it, and their anus is about 2/3 of the way down in the front. You know, like if yours was on your kneecap. Jerry, can we show them that with AI or no? Anyway,
Interesting you're mentioning kneecaps when in recent videos I have mentioned my knee at least a couple of times. Just within the last few days, I released a video pointing out my knee cracking as I bent down while I was playing with my cats. And then within, the last month to 6 weeks or so, I mentioned going down hard on my knee in a Walmart because they had a slippery area there. So again, guys, I'm just pointing out the coincidences, the odds of me mentioning my knee, twice in the last, couple of months, 2 to 3 months maybe. And now he's talking about kneecaps. Has he ever mentioned a kneecap in any previous videos before I started talking about my knee? I don't recall. But maybe I'm wrong. Let's continue.
do their business, they gotta come out the hole at least that far. But most of the time, they just sort of hang out like this. What they're doing is waiting for some crap to float by that they can eat, like plankton, like an underwater sushi conveyor belt. Now, when the water's still, it's a bit of a pain in the ass. Not much floats by, and your hunting's restricted to a small circle around your hole. And fish that eat the same food are just zipping around, laughing it up. How's dinner, you eel f***? These fish aren't great at insults. But when the current picks up, it's a different story altogether.
Right there, possibly making fun of my insulting him, saying I'm not great at insults. I'm not trying to be a rock star insults meister, whatever you want to call it. I'm just trying to point out to everyone else that you are a coward and you're not what you seem. And you just keep proving that to me over and over again. So, and honestly, at this point, dealing with a big overgrown child has just become so exhausting. I don't feel much like cracking jokes. But you are a fuck, so.
Change their posture into more of a question mark. They get lower, but still within the range that all that food is whipping by. All of this reduces the drag on their bodies, and this allows them to eat quite well in conditions where short fish are like umbrellas in a windstorm. Those guys. You can see that these garden eels live in like little suburban developments. And sure, once in a while you might get into an argument over the leaf blower, or maybe there's another hole you covet. But living close together does give them the opportunity.
Argument over the leaf blower. Interesting when you consider that I have sort of shooed away the place where I live right now, guys. The property management company, they have sort of scheduled yard maintenance workers that come in once every like couple of weeks or so and clean up the yard and, mow the grass and blow the leaves and such. They also have scheduled exterminators. So I'll get into the scheduled exterminator later. The exterminator was somehow, let's just get into it right now. Somehow the exterminator was scheduled accidentally, quote unquote, accidentally, twice for the same week to come to my place. And the second time he was here, I was out at work. And first of all, he left like a plastic sheet with some kind of clear, looked like insecticide stuff, gel on it, just right out on my kitchen counter, which he was not supposed to do. He like peeled it off of a sticky box to catch roaches and stuff that he stuck under my sink. And he just left it on the kitchen counter for my cats to possibly be exposed to. And then for the past, 3 days or so, 3-4 days since that guy came in here, my newest kitten, Arlo, has just been vomiting all over the place and is refusing to eat, and I'm very worried for him and his health. He's looking very skinny now. And again, I didn't have these kinds of problems just back to back to back, just all the time. Problems like this that are costing me a bunch of money for vet bills and are costing me a bunch of emotional turmoil, worrying about the well-being of my cats and so on and so forth. I did not have things like my cats just disappearing, like 3 cats in 2 years, until I started researching Zay Frank and his family and Chris Thompson and Richard Hart, and coming out and talking about how I think that they are probably engaging in child abuse. So suddenly all of these bad things are happening. Also, Not long after I posted a video that really showed, showed a good amount of the surroundings around my apartment. I moved into this apartment in Florida in December of 2023, not even a year ago. And then it was maybe 2 or 3 months at least before I posted a video that showed some of my surroundings around my apartment. And after I posted that, not long after I posted it, probably within about a week, there was a guy wandering around who was dressed kind of officially, and he decided to just walk up right past my apartment, like on the sidewalk right next to my apartment, and was sort of like looking in the door at me a bit while I was sitting in here, and sort of stopped and looked like he was making note of something, and looked like he was kind of looking around at my belongings. And then he moved on around the back of the house. And later I asked this one dude who lives here, like, what was going on with this guy wandering around dressed looking kind of like he was an official worker of some sort. He was wearing a blue shirt. And I was told that he was a property management guy and that he never shows up here. But suddenly he showed up here after I posted that video. And was stopping outside of my apartment and kind of craning his neck, looking in through the door a bit. And it looked like he was sort of looking around, making note, trying to figure out, like, is this the right spot? That's what it looked like. So yeah, like I said, guys, they have people all over the place. This network. Just like ONA, just like Order of Nine Angles, they will hide people. They will hide people in all kinds of positions, basically. There's also after I posted that video, I heard that the inspector, this lady who's a property inspector, she'd been coming around and sort of giving them the runaround, like putting the property management people and the maintenance people on edge, I guess. And that was another one that was like, why is this property manager, it's not what I was thinking or said, but I was being told this, like, why is this this inspector person coming around really buckling down and suddenly being very interested in the property? Again, these people like to put themselves and members of their network into positions of power. It makes them feel good about themselves to feel like they have power over others. And an official inspector, a building inspector, that's a pretty good amount of power. They can get businesses and buildings shut down. They can get people evicted, right? If they shut like a whole apartment building down, suddenly all those people have no place to live, right? If you have a restaurant or something and you fall afoul of this network, well, then they might send their inspector member around to give you trouble and have your business shut down. Right? So, back to the leaf blower thing. So yeah, the other thing is that they have yard work guys come in every couple weeks or so, and they go from apartment to apartment to our the outside little yard area that we each have, and try to blow leaves off and stuff. And I've told him, I've gone out of my way to ask him a few times, sort of shoo him away and say, like, that's not necessary, just leave it. The leaf blower particularly, and telling him just avoid right around my apartment, please, because A, I hate the noise of it. I hate it. B, it startles and upsets my cats. And C, he just kind of blows leaves into the food bowls and the water bowls for the cats. And he doesn't necessarily get it out of my yard area. He just kind of like disperses it to other parts of the yard, my little yard area that I don't appreciate. And also tramples on some of my stuff. Sometimes the things I'm growing, I just don't want to. I just prefer them not to mess with my yard, my little yard space. So again, there's another little thing where another little coincidence, more coincidences. Let's press on.
Opportunity to mate, and this is one of the few times that a garden eel will come out of its hole. No pun intended. It's a minefield. Anyway, the female goes first and releases a bunch of eggs in the water, and then a male or males will swim into that egg cloud and ejaculate. Everyone's back in their hole again. And for eels, this reproduction story is fairly boring. Take this ribbon eel here, for example. Now, ribbon eels are a type of moray eel that also like to spend most of their lives in holes. The ribbon eel's anus is about 2/3 the way down its body, in the front. So if that was on you and you touched your toes, for example, you'd be face to face. Well, not face to face, but you get it. Because this one's all black with that racing stripe, you can tell it's a...
More of an anus that's 2/3 of the way down on the body. Around the knee area. Like, why did you feel the need? Again, guys, this is stuff you should be thinking about too. He's a professional entertainer. He's a professional clown. He's also a millionaire. He has the time to sit and think about what he says in these videos. He has the time to understand, like, oh, I've already used that joke. I've already pointed that out just a few minutes previously, maybe like 2 minutes ago in this same video. I already pointed out that this one eel has, its genitals and anus and stuff 2/3 of the way down on the body. Why is he doing that again? I know it's a different eel, but why is he pointing that specific fact about the anatomy of these eels out over and over again? So, I don't necessarily have an answer for you right now, but it's worth noting that he's decided to point out the same fact within about 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes of each other. And he's not an idiot, guys. This guy, Zay Frank, has been touted, noted publicly by many, many people as being a genius. His father is a Nobel Prize winner. Again, he has a degree from Brown University in neurolinguistic programming. That's not an idiot. That's not a stupid person. If I'm smart enough to pick up on it, like, oh, you're pointing out the same anatomy fact about eels twice in about 3 minutes. If I'm smart enough to pick up on it, and I don't have any college degrees, then he's certainly smart enough to see that in his own work, right? He's been working on making this video probably for, at the very least, a minimum of a few days. And he's got 2 assistants, it looks like. He credits Caitlin Cowie and Becky Harris at the end of his videos now, that I guess they're helping him with making them. So 3 different sets of eyes, six eyes on the same project is bound to catch that repetitiveness, right? So if he chose to leave it in, it's for a reason. It was not a flub. It was not a oopsies. I told the same joke twice in a 2-minute span, or pointed out the same fact twice in a 2-minute span. No, he did it on purpose. So, all right, let's continue.
Juvenile. I can also tell that it's male. You know how? Because every single ribbon eel is born a male. As they grow into adulthood, they change into this lovely blue and yellow. Now, unlike garden eels, these eels don't mind buddying up. This older gentleman here, for example, is sharing his hole with a juvenile. Now, there's a whole bunch of reasons why it can happen, but at some point, some adult males turn into females. And when they do that, they change color again to all yellow. Pretty cool, right? Get to see what that's like. Steep price, though, because they immediately mate, lay eggs, and then die, all within about a month. Now, you might have already noticed a couple other things about ribbon eels.
Females immediately mate, lay eggs, and then die, all within about a month, as soon as they turn into females. So my best guess is he's offering up a sort of counter argument to mine about this idea of I don't know that I even want to get into it. But you guys, for anybody who has been watching my videos, you've seen me say that I think that the point of life is to be a mom. The ultimate point of life, the meaning of life, is to live a meaningful life. And the most meaningful life is to be a mother. Parent, but specifically a mother, because the female, at least in our species, and human beings love likening God to ourselves and thinking of God or the highest power or what have you as that we were made in its image, right? So then that's assuming that the highest power started off as like this human type of thing. Well, then if you're looking at it that way, through that lens, then it makes sense to try, if you're trying to figure out things like the meaning of life, to try to look at it through the lens of a human being rather than through the lens of a bear or an eel or a crab or any of these stupid fucking animals that Zay likes to point out. But he's trying to offer, my first guess is a counter argument to my argument that the meaning of life is to live a meaningful life, and the most meaningful life is family, parenthood, having children, caring for them to the best of your abilities, those moments with your kids, watching them grow up, the little funny moments when they discover new things like ice cream and stuff. That's the gold of life. Those are the golden moments. And again, in our species, in the human species, the females are the ones that we're the ones who were built basically to be the caretakers, the primary caregivers to the children, whereas the males were built more to provide resources to help that whole scenario along. But it looks like I guess maybe Zay's pointing out that I guess it's the opposite for eels or something like that, because the women don't live for very long. They just mate, lay eggs, and die. So they don't get to raise the babies. But it looks like the adult males will hang out in hidey holes with juveniles. So if you want to be an eel, Zay, go right ahead. I butchered an eel once and ate it. Slippery little suckers. They can be hard to kill, but I fucking killed it. So, because, I'm a human, and I've got these human hands, and the human brain, and the human tools, and so on, and the human will. I was not about to... It was making a fucking mess in my kitchen. Oh my goodness. Slime and blood everywhere. But I was determined to have myself an eel dinner, and so I did. So you be an eel, Zay. I'll be a human woman. We'll see which one wins. I've already seen how that one turns out. Spoiler alert, you're gonna die. That's how that goes. You're gonna lose, dude. No, you keep extolling the virtues of eels. Go ahead. I'm gonna have myself a little smoke with that one. Wow. Just so ridiculous.
One, they've got some shit sticking out their face. And two, their hunting skills seem a bit off. Like, it's right there, right in front of you. Now, these two things are related. In general, moray eels, which are nocturnal hunters, have poor eyesight. Ribbon eels are no exception and are almost blind, but but they do have an incredible sense of smell and some seriously tricked out nostrils. Those leaf-like extensions can sense minute vibrations, and those little sticky-outy barbells underneath its jaw are sensitive to touch and chemical signals. And the ribbon eel uses all these to be an ambush hunter. I think it stretches the notion of what an ambush is, but this is an excellent way to weed out the dumbest fish. But in general, despite their poor eyesight, most types of moray eels are excellent hunters, and this has not escaped the attention of the grouper fish. Groupers will often seek out moray eels. If it's daytime, they'll try and wake them up, and then the grouper does this little head shake, which seems to translate to a request for a hunting playdate. And then they go off together, looking all Laurel and Hardy. The grouper has the eyesight and has the...
So I have to wonder, this could just be filler content to get to the next point he's trying to make. But I have to wonder if he is talking about the grouper and the eel pairing up, teaming up, because he's hinting at me that, I've already pointed this out, I think, in previous videos, or if I haven't, I'll point it out now. Not all of the people who are going to be supportive and help this child trafficking network, not all of them are necessarily going to be child abusers. Some of them will just be sociopaths and psychopaths they're not necessarily attracted to children. They don't necessarily feel like hurting children. But if they profit off of other people who do hurt children, they'll just look the other way, and or they'll help. If you have, let's just give you an example. If you have two mafia families that are in business together, and maybe, or at the very least, they help each other out once in a while, and maybe they even have information on each other that could harm the other, maybe the families don't even particularly like each other, but they work with each other under certain circumstances. And again, perhaps they have information on one another that's like, if I go down, you go down with me. So that's how you can make enemies with one of these mafia families and then find that you've made enemies with two mafia families. So that's the best I can maybe make out for right now, what he might be getting at with this part. I'm a bit sleepy. I slept in today and woke up and decided to do this little commentary before I go in and teach a class. So forgive me if I'm not super creative in picking apart your little clues. Pressing on.
Stocky muscle of the operation, but sometimes a bit too stocky to get into the holes and crevices where food might be hiding. So when the grouper finds something that it can't get to, it does a little signal, bounces up and down like a power-up in a video game. And that tells the moray eel where to go to flush something out. Now, when a moray catches a fish, it does have to figure out how to eat it without cutlery or a plate to push against, sort of like the sushi version of bobbing for apples. To get a bit of leverage, the moray can use its length. They can tie themselves in knots. Some pretty classic ones, too, like the figure eight. And this allows them to wrap.
Figure eight. A snake-like, so it's an eel, but it's a snake-like creature. It's like a snake of the sea, right? Tying itself into a figure eight knot. That's an Ouroboros. So go look up Ouroboros online. I've pointed this image, this symbol out to you. It's an occult symbol. It's used by Freemasons. It's used by a lot of different esoteric cults. And devil-worshipping cults, and so on and so forth. And it represents, it's meant to represent, as far as I can tell, it's the first primordial entity. So that which all other things come from. And it's usually a snake eating its own tail, and sometimes it's in the image of a circle. So it's a snake forming a circle. It's just eating its own tail. But quite often it will also be depicted as a figure eight, a snake sort of wound around itself, again eating its own tail. So there's that.
Around things or change their width to pull and push against a surface. And you can see if two eels fight, it's hard to tell who's a winning and who's a not. But let me tell you, some of the things that they like to eat, like octopus, for example, don't exactly go down easy without a fight. Now, to help with that, it has a second set of jaws.
I just have to say this. You're slipping when it comes to the humor. You're recycling your jokes way too much. You're spreading them thin. Just they're not even dad jokes anymore. They're just bad jokes. and it's three different people working on these now. You have two little helpers helping you to make these videos now, and still you can't pull off better jokes. Okay, dude. Those millions of dollars making you lazy. Lazy.
Inside of its throat, think demon-possessed tonsils. These pharyngeal jaws help to grab onto food and pull it further into the tum-tums. Now, this is particularly helpful.
Demon-possessed tonsils, possibly demon-possessed voice. Like demon-possessed chakra. You have a throat chakra. Like the words leaving your mouth are that of a demon. They're not really you. Again, might relate back to the ego, the soul, fear, how our ego can be equated in many ways with our soul, and it's the soul and the ego provide fear responses, and that you could call that a demon, I guess, if you're inclined to look at it that way. So
certain types of morays that hunt out of the water, where suction-style swallowing won't work. This one's going after a crab. As if crabs don't have a hard enough time with the f***ing seagulls. Run away! But here, you can see that once that moray gets a hold on that piece of food, it gets pulled back into the throat like there's a little hand back there. Now, to the pelican eel, this second set of jaws business is child's play. Listen, there aren't times for being long like an eel do, but when I learn, especially new things, I want it shortened to the...
There's a cat on that screen. Oh. Is that a cat? Yes. So I think at this point, it's pretty well established that if there's ever a symbol for me, it's a cat. I've got like 6 of them now. My nickname is Cat. He could have again, guys, oh my goodness. I guess it's just another coincidence. He could have shown any number of screenshots from this imprint app, right? He didn't have to show the one with the cats. The 6 cats. Look, 6 cats. 6 images of a cat. And I just recently released a video showing that I had 6 cats, and all 6 of my cats were eating their breakfast in the kitchen. What are the words there? Namely, a cat that had managed to twist in midair and land on its feet after being dropped. What are the odds, guys? What a coincidence. I think it's within the last couple of weeks, I released a video showing my 6 cats eating breakfast in my kitchen. And he's showing a screenshot with a picture of 6 cats. There are all kinds of other screenshots he could have shown from this app, this imprint app or whatever program that he's trying to shill to us. Why would he choose the one that's got a picture of 6 cats? Wow. So many coincidences.
Point. Look at this. A beautiful illustrated series on the physics of a falling cat. This is what Imprint does best.
He's talking about the physics of a falling cat. So again, the cat is probably representative of myself, and he's talking about me falling. Falling from grace, I guess. Possibly a reference to my taking that fall onto my knee, which is doing a lot better now, by the way. But probably more the idea of the cat falling from grace. Cats climb right back up again, though. They're good at that, too. So, let's continue.
Imprint is a new way to be exposed to concepts in psychology, philosophy, the science of happiness, technology, and much more. All in bite-sized lessons that just take a few minutes to complete. You can turn your look at your phone every 10 seconds habit into a bite-sized everyday learning habit that you can feel good about. I got sucked into a philosophy course about Aristotle's Poetics.
I've also mentioned, I believe I've mentioned Aristotle. I've mentioned, I think, Confucius. A bunch of those philosophers in the past. While Plato argued for the banishment of, I can't make that out, poets, Aristotle believed there was a proper place for poets and actors, particularly tragedians in society. So this could very well be his counter argument against mine, where I've been saying, we don't need professional clowns. I'm saying we don't need them as much as we need other things, and it's the professional clowns that are making it so that we don't have the other things that we need more than them. They're derailing our society from what I've seen, and making everybody think that they should want to be a superstar clown like they are, raking in money for doing nothing but sitting around with a couple of chicks coming up with barely funny videos anymore, right? Raking in followers like cult leaders, when we really need people to be more invested in doing their jobs properly, particularly if you work in the medical industry, if you work in the justice system. We don't want those people focused on just making money and being a superstar. We want those people focused on justice, on the proper health of their patients, right? We want them to be driven by something other than money, 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 fame, 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 fame. I want the easy life. Gimme, 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 now, now, now. Right? Do you want to go to that doctor? Do you want to go to the doctor who doesn't give a shit about you or your health so much as he cares about getting kickbacks from, pharmaceutical companies for prescribing you medicine that you don't necessarily need? And this is a big problem now that a lot of medical professionals are coming out and talking about and saying, a lot of patients are being prescribed medications that they don't really need. They need to be told by their doctors and medical professionals that, hey, you got to change your diet. Hey, if you want to up, your vitamin D or lower your cholesterol or blah, 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 or this, you need to switch over to eating more of this and less of this, or so on and so forth. Really, the best ways to heal a lot of our problems are natural ways. It's not always best to take a pill or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10. Some people are on like a regimen of like 100 pills or more, and it's insane and it's ridiculous and it's unnecessary. And a lot of that is just because these medical professionals want money and status. They want, that second summer house down in the Keys or some nonsense. And they want, the third Maserati or whatever, instead of wanting to do what's best for their patients. And I do blame a lot of that view, like that worldview that people have been picking up, like this I just want to be a superstar, I just want to make money. I blame that on the professional clowns like Zay Frank, like Richard Hart, like the rock stars like Chris Thompson and Ezra Koenig. You know, they don't care about you people. They don't care about their fans. They care about the money you're giving them. And I think that I'm one of the best examples of that. I was a fan of Zay Frank's. I was, until I started to suspect that he was engaged in child abuse, that he was a part of a network that worships the devil, that abuses children, that commits incest with kids. And now, not only am I not a fan of his, I'm adamant about being his enemy and about researching him and trying to expose what he's doing and what he's a part of. And again, if he gave a shit about his fans, if he's innocent, then he wouldn't want me throwing away my life trying to prove something that isn't true, right? And he would do something to set my mind at ease. And poorly crafted videos with bad jokes is not doing anything to set my mind at ease. I'm a woman. Women need some certainty, right? What's that line from The Way of the Gun? One of the head mob boss guys who's having his baby grown by a surrogate mom. He says to the surrogate mom, a woman needs certainty. A woman needs to have her past, present, and future all accounted for. Something right along those lines, right? I'm a woman. And when it comes to certain things, particularly the safety of our children, or any children, we need certainty. That means real conversations. But again, I keep forgetting I'm dealing with a big overgrown little boy who can't handle grown women holding them accountable and asking them for real explanations. They need trickery and magic. Little boys need trickery and magic and smoke and mirrors. They need you to look at them like they are some shining god. They need that feedback. They need that energy being shown at them, which is another reason why these guys often will become something like a cult leader. Either a full-blown cult leader or, again, like a rock star, superstar, Elon Musk type, musician, comedian, humorist, what have you. A big name celebrity type of person who has a fan following that just goes, oh my gosh, you're so amazing, we love you, because they wouldn't be able to get out of bed if they didn't have that. That's the hallmark of a narcissist, right? What gets me out of bed is taking care of my cats, the hope that maybe today I'll meet my future husband and have a family. I'm not looking to be worshipped like a god or told that I'm so amazing. I'm just looking for a good little meaningful life with a family, which it will probably have some hard work. Yeah, changing dirty diapers and dealing with temper tantrums is not fun, but it's what I would like to do. So it's really a big difference between normal people and what gets us out of bed in the morning and these kinds of people, highly narcissistic people. And like what gets them out of bed in the morning is I want attention, I want attention, I want attention. But yeah, so there's my argument against the professional clowns. We don't need you as much as we need other things, as much as we need people, walking around proud to do their jobs properly rather than proud to be making a big paycheck. And because the professional clowns think only about making the big paycheck and being looked at like they're gods. And they spread that viewpoint like it's a disease. Now our society is going to shit because just everybody is what's the word I'm looking for? Awestruck and worshipful and glamored by these movies and music, rock concerts, Netflix, television, all this nonsense that's showing us these people in as if they are otherworldly gods, and they're not. So it's really becoming a stain on humanity. This worshiping of a life that doesn't really exist, worshiping of human beings being godlike. And again, the people who are spreading that disease the most are the professional clowns, the rock stars, the celebrities like Zay Frank. So, and he's giving me a really flacid counter argument here, saying, oh, Plato argued for the banishment of what was it? Poets. There we go. But Aristotle had their back. Okay. I don't give a shit. If you think I base my viewpoints, my worldviews on what a bunch of philosophers say, like I might take what they say into consideration, but they can be wrong. They've been wrong. No, throw some more flaccid arguments at me, dude. Please, you're as flaccid as those eels. Let's continue.
Plato could be a bit of a downer, but just minutes later I was knee-deep in a visual summary of Samin Nosrat's salt, fat, acid, heat cooking philosophy. It's how learning should be, fun, like an adventure. And to make sure this stuff is sinking in, you can take daily quizzes that draw from all of the different lessons you've taken. There's a reason that Imprint was Google's App of the Year this year, and was named an essential education app by Apple. You should check it out. Go to the link imprintapp.com/.
Sorry, I put the phone down for a second, and I would like to look more closely at
10 seconds habit into a bite-sized everyday learning habit that you can feel good about. I got sucked into a philosophy course about Aristotle's Poetics. Turns out Plato could be a bit of a downer. But just minutes later, I was knee-deep in a visual summary of Samin Nosrat's salt, fat, acid, heat cooking philosophy. It's how learning should be. Fun.
So another thing is, guys, for any of you who might keep track of me on Facebook at least, I frequently post little cooking stuff on there. Some of it is not for you to see. Some of it's just reminders for me, like try this recipe. But there's some stuff that's public. I think if you pay close enough attention to my Facebook page wall, it's pretty easy to see that I'm into cooking. I'm into healthy cooking. Like I make my own ice cream out of coconut cream and stuff, so to avoid eating too much dairy. I eat gluten-free for the most part. And I will try all kinds of new recipes and stuff. So that could be another reference to me. Again, he could have brought up all kinds of other lessons that this Imprint app is offering. It didn't have to be cooking. It didn't have to be, I'm sure that Imprint is offering all kinds of little lessons and classes on things that I don't care about at all, that have nothing to do with me. But he's showing cats. He's showing images of 6 cats and cats falling. My nickname is Cat. I have 6 cats. He's showing images of cooking. I'm very into cooking good, healthy, nutritious foods. What are the odds? Such a coincidence.
Like an adventure. And to make sure this stuff is sinking in, you can take daily quizzes that draw from all of the different lessons you've taken. There's a reason that Imprint was Google's App of the Year this year, and was named in the...
What's that one saying? Cultivating secure attachment in child requires both emotional and blank support. Physical support. Cultivating a secure attachment in a child requires both emotional and physical support. So, one thing that you guys need to consider about these families, and yes, again, I know it's hard to think about babies, but you need to think about it. You need to consider it. It's part of growing up. There are families in this world that commit incest with their own children. A lot of them they haven't been caught yet. They're doing it secretly. A lot of them are smart enough to not get themselves caught yet. But there are families in this world that commit incest with their own children. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that the aristocracy quite often engages in this. The pharaohs of ancient Egypt, the Roman emperors, the Habsburgs. And if you think that it died down with any of them, no, it's still continuing. The aristocracy of our day, the celebrity aristocracy in America, the politician aristocracy in America, the royalty in Europe, in Great Britain, so on and so forth. I guarantee you, a lot of them get up to this stuff. So it makes sense then that I've already pointed this out. The smarter you are does not mean you're going to do the right thing. It could just mean that you're going to come up with smarter reasons why you should be able to do the wrong thing. So very intelligent addicts their intelligence won't necessarily help them kick the addiction. It will just help them come up with smarter sounding excuses for why they should continue their addiction. So if you are from an incestuous family and you're well educated and quite brilliant, good bet you're going to just come up with intelligent sounding reasons why you should be able to engage in an inappropriate sexual contact with your own children, which is probably what this little clip is all about. Cultivating secure attachment in a child requires both emotional and physical support. I think, again, they will pose this stuff in such a way that if you're a good person, if you're a normal person who does not engage in incest, you will read this as, well, of course, hugging, little kisses, pick them up and rock them back and forth when they're very upset, so on and so forth. Like, that's good parenting. But then the bad parenting, the incestuous parenting is, baby girl just needs a deep dicking from daddy. That'll make her feel better. I was just watching, actually, a short little documentary talking about Fred and Rose West. They're known as being some of Great Britain's worst serial killers, and it was actually focusing on this woman who lived with them. She rented out one of the rooms in their house when she was a teenager, and by the grace of God managed to get the F out of there before they could kill her, because they definitely killed their other tenants who were renting another room there. But they were interviewing this woman. She's a grown woman now. And she said at one point she heard the reason she moved out of that household with the Wests. By the way, their last name is West. And I call these people the Western cult. Oh, and they're considered there's evidence to suggest that they were connected with another family that was part of an incestuous pedophile ring. And their last name was Williams. And I've already started pointing out how the Williams name factors into this a lot. So West and Williams, two very important names that I see pop up when I'm researching this network, guys. So I think that's interesting that you have Fred and Rose West, and the reason this woman moved out of their house is because one night, for several nights in a row, she heard this one of their little girls, who was about 8, yelling, "Daddy, stop. Daddy, please stop. Daddy, stop." And when she asked a family member about it later, the family member said, Fred feels it's his right to break in his own daughters. So that's what made her move out. So again, that should give you guys an example of the kind of mindset that these people can have, and likely do have when it comes to having sex with their own children, right? They see it as their right. They see it, they'll come up with any excuse, any reason why it's a good thing. It's preferable. It's my right. So on and so forth. So I suggest you look into those guys. I'm not going to pull it up because I don't want to lose my spot in this video, but look into Fred and Rose West. That's a gruesome story. They murdered their own daughter after he spent years raping her. And it wasn't just him, it was his wife too. So this network is not just men doing this. There are certainly women doing this, right, Jody?
Essential Education app by Apple. You should check it out. Go to the link imprintapp.com/Zafrank to get a 7-day free trial and 20% off an annual membership. I think you'll like it. I do. Use the link and support this show. Try it today. Where were we? Oh, right. The jaws of the pelican eel are next level. Here, just take a look at an x-ray. Looks like a lizard trying to smuggle a laptop the hard way. But what you're looking at is actually an amazing piece of flesh origami. And look at this, some science hippies made a working model so you can understand it better. What's interesting is that the anus of the pelican eel is about 2/3, Jerry, we're talking about its mouth. Where its anus is
again, so that's the third time now that he's talking about the anus being 2/3 down, he didn't continue it with that, but so contemplate that, guys. If you guys have any ideas on what he might be getting at with that, the anus being 2/3 down, it's not coming to me right now. Again, I feel a little bit like I'm jet lagged, but I'm giving it a try to break these down when I'm a little bit half asleep, half awake, and not going with, I don't know, a bunch of caffeine and energy in me. Maybe it'll help cap my anger when it comes to dealing with this nonsense. So we'll see. But anus, 2/3 of the way down. It's the third time he's mentioned it in this video.
No, you're right. It's relevant to the eel. Just enough, all right? Anyway, these jaws unfold and create something almost like a balloon. Here, it's easier to see if we play this clip backwards. Food is a bit scarce down in the deep where it lives, so it helps to have a bit of
That just made me think of something as well, and I've considered this, that they might be sending people from their network to my job. I teach in an art studio. I teach art classes, painting classes. And it's not like a public school situation. It's open to the public, so anybody can sign up for these classes and come in for them. And I often will break down my paintings when I'm teaching them to someone. I will break down my painting into like grid sections and say, like, this is 2/3 of the way down on the canvas. Just to kind of eyeball it, kind of break up your canvas into sections and go like, 1/3, 2/3, this is 2. And in fact, I just did that last night with my class, one of my classes. Or was it last night or the night before, maybe? I guess last night last night I was supposed to assist and I was asked to teach instead. So I taught the class. And I just did that last night and said, break it up into thirds. And this specific part of the image is 2/3 of the way down. So I don't know if that's a commentary on that, or if maybe that's just a coincidence. But I do think that they have definitely been sending people here and there to take the classes that I'm teaching. Whether it's to, I don't know, keep tabs on me, spy on me, sure, certainly, but also I have to consider that they might be trying to do things like complain about me, like say like, oh, was insulting or something like that, or she's just not funny, or she's just boring, she's a bad teacher or something. And I won't say I'm the best art teacher or the most entertaining, but I'm also certainly not the worst. I've worked with people who are not nearly as entertaining, or or what's the word I'm looking for? As I guess, I don't know, or as savvy at relaying information as I am. They still have jobs, right? Like they're still working with me, or they still were working with me. So yeah, I think I'm a good teacher overall. So it's like, if I end up getting fired from this job for just, doing my job as I'm supposed to, I'm just like, and again, like, this is the one thing I have, I don't know, like 35 years of experience in art and teaching art and or being a student of art. So if I were to get fired from this job for whatever nonsense, although I am looking at other jobs because I guess the owners of the studio are thinking about selling it, so they're thinking about retiring. And also I'm thinking about moving, I've already said. So I'm just saying, I do think that there's gang stalking going on here. I do think that they send people to my jobs in order to try and look for ways to get me fired, in order to look for anything that they can complain about to my superiors so that they can make my life harder. Which is really just, wow, I guess, oh, you guys must be really scared of me, that you have to go to those lengths. You guys must, I must really be onto some shit here. If you feel you have to do stuff like insert someone like Thomas Pallone, Tristan E. Nicole into my life, pretending to be my friend while slipping weird shit into my food. But all right, let's continue.
Assurance that you're going to catch what you're after, and you can imagine it not only swallows the food, but a good amount of water as well.
You wouldn't know what to do with it if you caught it, say. Just to be clear with that, you're all talk and no action. When it comes to your last little short, just to get this one out of the way, I didn't realize that I had to be cute for you. He, for those of you who don't know, he released a little short before this video talking about cute became a carpet of crabs. What makes you think that you've earned cute girl behavior from me? You are a coward. You are not chivalrous. You are not straightforward. You are not truthful. You've given me absolutely no reason to think that I can trust you. Again, particularly when you consider the Thomas Pallone incident, the Tristan Nicole, whatever you want to call that dude. That was really creepy. That was really, really creepy. Why should I think that you are trustworthy? You are not a hero. Heroes deserve cute girl behavior, not slithering snakes and clowns. And again, let me point out to you guys, these people can't handle anything but cute girl behavior. This is why they go after the young, the naive. They can't handle a woman, which is probably why a lot of them also they don't like their wives. They might like what their wives do for them to some degree. But a real wife, a real woman will hold a man accountable. They won't let him be a little boy all the time. They're going to insist that he be upstanding, that he give straightforward answers, that he forego the tricky bullshit, that he hold himself accountable for his words and his actions. Again, that they explain themselves clearly, concisely, in an easy to understand manner. Like, that's how a woman is. Why? Because little girls are just like, oh my gosh, you're my soulmate, you're my Prince Charming, you're gonna sweep me off my feet to a castle, and we're gonna live happily ever after. A woman understands, like, no, he's a dude. And, sorry, dudes, but a lot of you, most of you, I would say at this point in the game, in our current society, are lazy. And you want mommy to hand it all to you for doing next to nothing except sitting around with a couple of younger chicks making videos that aren't even funny anymore. Right? So again, a real woman she's not, those rose-colored glasses are going to fall off the little girl. To some degree, it must happen in order to make her the woman that will hold her man accountable, that will say, no, you need to give me straightforward answers right the fuck now. And won't, let him use loopholes to get out of explaining himself and so on and so forth. And it can be tedious and taxing, and it really shouldn't have to be that way. It is that way when a woman is partnered with a narcissist. I know, because I've unfortunately had that real life experience of being in a relationship with a narcissist. And towards the end, as I started to realize more and more, like, this guy is just fucking around. He's using me. He's giving me half answers so that he doesn't have to tell me the whole truth. And then it became a matter of, no, I need exact responses from you, because I don't feel I can trust you now. And until we can rebuild this trust, like, I need you to be more straightforward with me. You're not going to just tell me you're going out for a while. I would like to know exactly where you're going to and with whom. Are there going to be any females there? Anyone like, that chick you said is back in town that you used to have a crush on, that I'm hearing is like hanging out with you and your friends and stuff? Stuff like that. So again, a woman holds a man accountable, and little boys don't want to be held accountable. And that's what we're dealing with when we're dealing with narcissists. That's what we're dealing with when we're dealing quite often with celebrities and professional clowns. They typically are highly narcissistic. Yeah, so you're all talk, dude. You wouldn't know what to do with it if you caught it. You just wouldn't. So keep talking, keep fronting.
Fortunately, it also has a stomach that can stretch out and handle it. Looks like a sperm with a dad bod. Now, I don't think that anyone's seen pelican eels mate, but when a male's getting ready for it, his testes grow and his stomach shrinks, his nose parts get all big so he can sniff a female out, and then he loses all his teeth. And it's not for foreplay. With a mouth like that, you'd swallow your partner whole. Jerry, this is dirty. Anyway, it's a whole body investment into mating, and once they do it, they die. It's hardcore. But listen, freshwater eels take this to a whole nother level. I'm not talking about electric eels. Those aren't eels. I'm talking about eels in the genus Anguilla, like the European eel or the American eel. They spend most of their lives happily without reproductive organs. Then one day they get the gonads, and that's where the trouble starts. Their whole body changes. Their eyes get bigger, they start eating a lot and get all muscular, and then they stop eating and it's time to head down river. And this isn't like casual tubing with some cans of Bud Light. I mean, they have to get past hydroelectric dams. It's a whole thing. Sometimes they have to shut the dams off. Some have special turbines to allow eels of a special size to pass through. Did you see?
We have more spirals there again. The spiral is a symbol of the Abrasics. It's a symbol of the demiurge creator deity. Why? Because spirals like the Fibonacci sequence and the golden ratio, that the Fibonacci sequence is the golden ratio. And it creates, when you map it out, chart it out, it creates a spiral shape, a golden spiral. So that is built into all of the material world. Flowers grow based on that pattern. Seashells grow based on that pattern. A lot of the human body is actually laid out based on the golden ratio, the Fibonacci sequence, and this spiral. We have spirals in our fingerprints. Our DNA is spiraled. Spirals are built into the material world everywhere. And so that's why spirals are often associated with the Abrasics. the demiurge creator god. It's a Gnostic deity that's been around it's been worshipped for over a millennia. And we even have some depictions of the Abrasics with spirals in it. Like the whip that he holds will be spiraled, or the coils of his snake legs will be spiraled. So again, he's showing spirals. What are the odds, guys? He didn't have to show us any spirals in this video. It's a short little video too. 12 minutes, 20 seconds, right? Did not have to be any spirals in this, but that's one of his little homages to the Abrasics that I believe he worships. A demiurge god thing that was written about by Carl Jung. So, all right, let's continue.
Anyway, if they get past all that and down to the ocean, the real starts. The undulating way they move is incredibly efficient, pushing vortex rings off to the side instead of behind them. And this allows them to swim very far without eating, because what they want to do with some privacy. But of course the science hippies followed them. Just want to see where you're having sex. Would normally be called stalking, but in this case research. Turns out that the...
Wow. So that's likely that's likely Zay Frank talking about how, I keep saying that when I keep saying that I'm researching him, I'm trying to expose him for having sex with children. And again, like, there are so many easier ways for him to just nullify that argument by just saying, no, this is, but again, he's not behaving like an innocent person. Anyway, so yeah, I've been researching him, and I've been saying that in almost every video. I'm researching him, I'm researching his family, I'm researching people like Chris Thompson as well, I'm researching people like Richard Hart as well, Tony Robbins, because I think that they are all a part of this network, and I think that they have sex with children. So him saying that, let's see if we can go back a little bit.
Very far without eating, because what they want to do with some privacy. But of course the science hippies followed them. Just want to see where you're having sex. Would normally be called stalking, but in this case research.
Just want to see where you're having sex would normally be called stalking, but in this case research. Yeah, journalists type people, sometimes they look extensively into suspects that they're writing about, and that is called research. If they think that if they're trying to expose somebody that they think is violating human rights, in other circumstances, it could be called stalking. But I don't know who you think you are talking about stalking after the Thomas Pallone incident that you still have yet to explain to me, and I will not accept your dumb cunt video explanations. That one deserves a conversation. A real conversation. Eye-to-eye, face-to-face conversation. You all lured me into a trap with fucking Psycho who was putting shit in my food. And who, there were clear undertones of this dude did not like me, but was pretending to be my friend, which is why I got the fuck out of there in a couple of days. Now that is stalking. That is stalking extraordinaire, isn't it? I don't know who the fuck you think you are talking shit about stalking. Hypocritical pig. Such a fucking hypocrite. This shit's getting so old. I'm just, I just feel like I'm arguing with a toddler at this point. It doesn't matter how much you point out to them, no, it was wrong for you to hit your sister. They are just going to come up with every excuse under the sun, and some of them are just going to be absolutely outrageous, ridiculous, stupid shit. But she's breathing next to me. What? Or they're going to say shit and it's but you're breathing next to her. Why shouldn't she turn around and I don't know, hit you? You understand? It's because they're children. They're little monsters. They're little toddlers. Yeah. Do you ever get tired of being a big overgrown child, Zay? Does It's getting boring for me. Does it ever get boring for you? Alright, gotta go to work soon, so let's try to wrap this up.
Turns out that the European eels and the American eels go to different places in the Sargasso Sea. So for some of them, it's like 3,000 miles. Now, when they get there, they're exhausted. So exhausted that they're about to die. But first, they have an orgy. Now, I don't think anyone's seen it in the wild, but here's what it looks like in a tank. The smaller males get all rubby around the female's urogenital opening.
But first, they have another butt joke. That's the second time in this video you've done the same dumbass butt joke. Are you trying to say something with the butt joke? Because you repeat it with like almost every video. You've now told the same butt joke twice in this video. Again, you're getting lazy. Maybe fire those two chicas who are helping you on these videos, because I guess they're not smart enough to, or brave enough to tell you, like, hey, your jokes are getting stale. Maybe come up with some other funny little plays on words there, because the butt joke is just like, I feel like I'm watching an episode of Beavis and Butthead. And I always disliked Beavis and Butthead. Again, I know some of you guys liked Pee Wee Herman. Some of you guys were fans of Beavis and Butthead. I didn't like any of that nonsense. I just thought it was annoying and stupid. It was stupid humor. So, all right.
And then they release their sperm nearby, sort of like this, but there's a bunch of eels. Here's some other eels doing their spawning thing so you get a sense of it. Kind of looks like, you know how people say your life flashes before your eyes? That, but like for a porn star. Anyway, then all the parents die, leaving a whole bunch of babies of river eels in the middle of the f***ing ocean. Negligent. The eggs hatch into these little larvae called leptocephali, which sort of look like fish roadkill, if that were a thing. Anyway, this is how all eels start, and some fish, so there's lots of different kinds. They have to fend for themselves, eating soft food with modified mouth parts. These things are really small. This gives you an idea of how much they have left to grow. But as they get bigger, you can start to see them swim. And what's cool is they sometimes curl up and take the shape of other things to avoid predators or just have fun, we don't know. Ocean currents eventually bring those river eels close to shorelines. The larvae then go through a transformation into what are called glass eels. Still see-through, but now much more eel-like. They don't necessarily return to the same rivers as their parents, but they do seem
So a lot of this is he's talking about transformation and metamorphosis, kind of going from like a little baby eel into a full-grown adult eel. That ties in with the Abrasix. The Abrasix is known as the god of frogs and toads. He's a changeling god. So his top half, his head is a rooster, his body is a man, and his legs are snakes. So it implies that he can live and exist in many different scenarios, backdrops, many different surroundings. He can, frogs and toads, they're amphibians. They are aquatic, but they can also come out of the water and onto the land. They also hop in the air. So in that way, they're sort of like minuscule air creatures, but they also can swim very well, and they can also be land-going creatures. So it's the same thing with the butterfly. They also use the butterfly as a symbol, that metamorphosis idea of going from like, and again, this might be a spiritual thing. Again, they're trying to say that, for my interpretation is, they're trying to make themselves like the gods. They see the gods as being incestuous. If it all came from one deity, one primordial source deity, and that deity split itself into two or many, and all life came from the coupling of those two split, well, then that's incest, right? One deity created two opposites, male and female, maybe brother and sister or something like that. And between the brother and the sister, or the father, daughter, mother, son coupling, came all of life beneath them. So they're trying to embody the gods. And their ideas are, you are not embodying a god unless you're committing incest. And so they would probably try to push this idea of, you're just a fledgling, you're just a worm, you're not completely developed yet because you're not committing incest. Wow. Let's continue.
Sensitive to Earth's magnetic field. Might help with general directions. Once these eels reach estuaries at the mouths of rivers, all they have to do is go upstream. And they're good at it too. They can climb. They can even leave the water for a while if they have to. I mean, this is the sort of thing you can accomplish as a teenager if you're not distracted by reproductive organs. I'll tell you, if we...
So again, the eel, an abrasix, it can be a water-dwelling creature. It can go out on land if it needs to, so on and so forth. Yeah, I have to be at work soon, so is there anything
Mars
else?
late, we'd be on Mars by now. But no, I was hanging out in front of tapes and such at Crossgates Mall. There's a spawning ground for you. I mean, the Sargasso Sea doesn't have an orange Julius, I'll tell you that. Or a Wetzel's pretzel, which is the...
Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it there. Is there anything I'm leaving out? Yeah, I think I got everything across I wanted to get across so far. Maybe I'll make another video picking this one apart with more information, but you're a child. You wouldn't know what to do with it if you caught it. You don't do real work. Real work is the work that nobody wants to do. Right? Even when it comes to parenting, like, there's good parts of parenting, but a lot of it's just hard work. It's just, you're elbows deep in baby shit, dirty diapers, temper tantrums, you have to have the sex talk, all that stuff. That's just uncomfortable shit that nobody wants to have to do. They just want all the good parts of parenting, right? And I don't know where you get off expecting me to be cute with you. I'm not here to be cute. I'm here to hold you accountable. I can understand why a coward wouldn't want to be held accountable. I can understand that to some degree, but dude, this doesn't... The way you feel about me, the way I feel about you, that doesn't matter. So, I mean, you could keep trying to get me on your side or something. That doesn't matter. What matters to me here is justice. You wronged these children. If you have any kind of sexual contact with a child, you're wronging them. You're treating them like trash. You're treating them like they're things that are there for your pleasure. Now, I've also considered that this might be a tactic to, I should make another video about this part, but to try and remove the ego, which again, like if we equate the ego with the soul, getting rid of the ego, getting rid of the soul, getting rid of the individual, what makes us individuals. And you might want to start, if that is your goal, guys, if you have, and your family have been doing this for generations, and your goal is to try and be like the one first primordial deity, well, the first primordial deity, like what, one of the things that separates us from the first it's not like we still have a piece of it in us, this oversoul, this spirit, Holy Spirit, right? We have a piece of it in us. But one of the things that separates us from that is our ego, our individual soul. They're trying to remove that for whatever reason. I don't think it's meant to be removed. I think we came down here to get these individual souls, for at least for a little while, for a reason. And not so that we could just do away with it. So if you're trying to remove that, though, if you're trying to remove that from your children, their ego, their soul, their fears, one way you might go about that is just from day one, you rape them, you have sex with them, you teach them that there's no boundaries, there's no you and me, there's us. You know, I've heard of this being done in households by, like, the father will take all the doors off the hinges so no one has any privacy. All the members of the family are forced to walk around the house naked, for example. So there's no difference between you and me. It's just us. Your body is my body is your body. I can use your body as I see fit, to pleasure myself with, and you should have no problem with it because you have no individual soul. You have no individual ego. You should have no fears. It's really sick. Like, this is the place of boundaries. We're supposed to have some boundaries down here. If you guys don't want boundaries, remove yourselves from the flesh world and go back to wherever you came from. Go away. Make yourselves intangible again. Goodbye. And I have to go back to work.